groups by name 2 days after the unrest in Charlottesville. And out front now, the Republican congressman from Florida, Curbelo. And thank you very much. I appreciate your time, Congressman. I know you were very open about it and you were very direct. You were critical of the president's initial response to the Charlottesville attack. At the time, you tweeted, and I quote you, "POTUS has always called out radical Islamic terrorists. He must now call out radical white supremacist terrorists." What do you make of his comments today, Congressman?
Well, Aaron, good evening from Miami. First thing I'll say is better late than never. I'm glad the president came out and called evil by name, singled out these groups that are dividing our country, that don't accept the idea that we are a diverse country, a nation of immigrants. So I appreciated that. However, I am concerned with that glaring omission on Saturday, and I think the president needs to take steps. If he truly wants to unite this country, if he truly wants to help heal this country, he needs to take steps to make sure things like this never happen again.
So, as you know, you pointed out sort of in your reference to the tweet about how he's handled Islamic terrorism. He bragged to the Associated Press back in April that he was 10-0 when he predicted that attacks were terrorism. So he was very quick as a candidate to suggest that Islamic-related attacks were terror, and that continued when he was president. Just after the London Bridge attack in June, he retweeted a tweet from the Drudge Report that said, quote, "Fears of a new terror attack after van mows down 20 people on London Bridge." Obviously, he did that before it had been confirmed it was terrorism. And then there were these instances when he spoke about attacks in Paris and Manila.
It looks like another terrorist attack, and what can you say? It just never ends. I would like to begin by addressing the terrorist attack in Manila. It is really very sad as to what's going on throughout the world with terror.
I just want to point out, Congressman, as a point of fact, Manila actually didn't end up being a terror attack. But my question to you is, why do you think he will call an Islamic-related terror attack terror, and he will do so before the intelligence agencies do so, but he did not do so in this case?
Well, Aaron, first of all, let me tell you that I think every political leader is responsible for his or her statements and for any omissions in those statements. But I'll also say that I think part of the problem, a big part of the problem, is that there are members in the president's White House staff who believe in accommodating this alt-right movement in the United States and apparently don't want to offend anyone who associates with it. Now, alt-right, just so that people understand, is not a group of people who have certain ideas about tax reform or about immigration reform or anything like that. Alt-right is about white nationalism. It is about racism. It is about dividing this country. And regrettably, there are members of the president's staff who at least believe that this movement should be accommodated. And my point is that there's no place for this movement in American politics. And I think that's why the president has lacked clarity in some of his statements. Now, again, he's responsible, but we all know that the modern American president doesn't sit down and draft his statements, doesn't draft his own speeches. These aides are very influential, and I really think the president needs to start listening to the highly competent, highly professional patriots on his staff, people like General Kelly, General McMaster, General Mattis, people who have sacrificed for this country, instead of those who believe in accommodating people who are hell-bent on dividing this country, on excluding American citizens from the American experience.
And to your point, right, there's a lot of people who could have influence over a president, but at a moment like this, you know, one would think that what you actually say to the American people would be your own words and from your own heart. But you have said now in that answer, you said aides and you said members. You used the plural in both cases. So you think there's more than one person who supports the alt-right in the president's inner circle?
I do believe so, and they have been named numerous times.
So
Obviously,
who are they? Are we talking Steve Bannon? Okay, who else?
Steve Bannon is the most prominent. I think a lot of these ideas that you see coming from Stephen Miller are also associated with these groups, and that's unfortunate. And look, I'm not saying these people are racists. I'm not saying that they want to advance a racist agenda, but it is pretty clear that they believe that these groups should be accommodated. And look, I visited Normandy recently, Aaron, where Americans went to fight against these kinds of ideas, and many of them died. I also recently visited Berlin, where a lot of these hateful, nasty ideas were born decades ago. We have always fought against these ideas. Those ideas are as un-American as they come. And for there to be people in the White House seeking to accommodate groups that advance these types of ideas is totally unacceptable.
So
I think that the president would go a long way towards improving his approval rating if he starts listening to others, not those that have taken him down this path.
Should he fire them, Stephen Miller and Stephen Bannon, to make a point about where he stands? Does he need to go that far, or is there something short of that you would settle for?
I think the president needs to make a strong statement regarding how he feels about this country, showing that he really wants to bring us together. Aaron, I was disgusted by the last presidential campaign. I thought both sides really worked hard to divide the country. Now it's time to unite the country. You cannot unite the country when there are people on your team who want to accommodate groups that are doing everything they can to divide this country. I don't know if they need to be fired. Maybe they need to be marginalized. Maybe the president just needs to start taking advice from the right people. And there are a lot of good people in that White House. He ought to listen to them.
Congressman Curbelo, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, and have a good night.